Let's talk about the differences between bike and perhaps car racing. Which do you enjoy?
Well, now that I'm over 30 years old, I much... well, when you get older, the more wheels underneath you, the better are you off. But the car, now, I'm just as keen to drive the car as what I was to ride a motorcycle when I was 18 years old. So that's the most important thing. If you're not keen or you don't want to do it, well, you shouldn't be there, and I am. But driving the car from the bike, there's so much that is just the same, but there's so much that is a big world apart. So there's no real things like people talk about your racing lines around a racetrack. They're very different, and your braking markers are different. Like the bikes have got 2 inches of rubber on the road, where the cars have got 2 lots of 12 inches on the road. So there's nothing the same, and it's all different.
Received the praise of the big guns. Even Kenny Roberts rated the Big Blonde as a natural racing genius.
I got on really good with Kenny, and we became good friends. But on the racetrack, there was no friendship at all, and it was all out war. And I beat him a couple of times over there on the old 750 Kawasaki, and that was the main reason, I guess, why he started saying good things about me.
12 years ago in 1975, when Hansford joined Team Kawasaki after doing the usual motocross apprenticeship, he was already red hot. He'd ridden one of the fearful Yamaha 700s and impressed Team Kawasaki's Neville Doyle so much, he had to get him.
Well, I'd been friendly with Neville for quite a few years before I started with him, like riding the Yamahas. Neville and Ron Toombs and Murray Saar were the opposition, and from 73 to 75, I was riding a 700 Yamaha against the big Kawasaki's, and in 75, Neville asked me if I wanted to ride with Kawasaki, and I did, and it just went from there.
By the end of the 70s and early in the 80s, Hansford was a major sporting personality in Europe and Japan. Even locally, the spotlight was beginning to highlight his achievements.
G'day, Greg. Roger Clemson, how are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
As a matter of fact, on that camera right now, we are on national television, would you believe? And Gregg Hansford, this is your life.
I don't believe it.
Isn't that?
Yep, flare pants and all, Hansford received the accolade from a variety of identities with flying nun collars. Winning and success continued. In fact, his win ratio was unbelievable.
I think the most successful year we had would have been 1977 or 76, when we had 64 races for the whole year, and I won 57 of them. So that made everybody really happy.
With the benefit of hindsight, Greg reckons he should have taken the Yamaha factory offer he received in 1980. At the time, Roberts was trying to run an outlaw World Series against the World Championship, but the riders stayed together, and Hansford knocked back his chance to replace Roberts at Yamaha. By then he was running the big 750. It was a handful, but it did the job. But it was the KR 500 he ran in 1981 that brought him undone. It was a pile of rubbish, and to quote the ace, to ride it, you had to leave your brain in the toolbox. He crashed twice on the 500, crangs like this, big and bad, and they made him stop and think.
Well, there was a couple of bad crashes that led up to me deciding not to race motorcycles anymore. And before we go any further, the thing that really made me not want to ride a motorcycle was not wanting to live in Europe. I didn't want to go back there and live there for 8 months of the year, otherwise I probably still would be riding a motorcycle. But the last race I did was the Belgian Grand Prix, when we had a bit of a malfunction with the brakes on the bike, and I crashed at the end of the main straight up the top of the mountain on the Spa circuit. But 4 weeks prior to that, I'd crashed at Imola, the first race of the year, at like 170 miles an hour, I think it was, and I'd broke a bone in my knee, which wasn't the big problem, but the doctors told me that it was all right, and I went for a walk on it, and the bone shifted, so I had to have an operation.
Did you miss it all? Because it was a long time before you got into car racing.
Yeah, sure. You don't know what you're going to do, I came home and we spent 12 months and we built a house and looked around and I wondered what I was going to do, and then all of a sudden Alan Moffat rang up and asked me to drive a touring car for him, and like that was like a dream come true. It was what I wanted to do. I don't really know how I got involved with motorcycles in the first place, because all I wanted to do was own a big V8 race car and with mag wheels on it, you know, right from when I was 15 years old.
His touring car career is only now getting right off the ground, but the desperation of motorcycle racing has taught him all about tough competition.
Those guys over there were absolutely mad is the word you can use. You know, you go out on the first lap of practice or the first lap of any qualifying session and they try and be breaking the lap record, and that was the way you had to do it over there, otherwise you just weren't in the race.
The guys he's talking about were also a little crazy off the track. They had to be when you consider how they made their living.
Crazy places over there, like people driving rental cars into the surf, and fond memories of Barry Sheen driving a Rolls Royce around the speed bowl at 120 miles an hour with a fire truck chasing him, trying to run him off the road because he shouldn't have even been out on the racetrack. But you know, just things like that happen every day. Like motorcycle people, you know, fairly crazy in the first place, but really are a good bunch of people, and you know, they do things like that just to break the monotony and have a bit of fun.
On four wheels, Gregg has floated on the edge of the big time for 4 years. His partnership with Alan Moffat was one he hoped wouldn't end, but that was grounded when Mazda called it quits. Since then, he's been in a succession of different cars, but still treats the game as a serious business.
Back in 5-6 years ago when we were racing, you know, we were spending $100,000. You know, these years you're talking about millions of dollars, and it's a job just as important, or if not more important, in part of my life. And I'm just as keen now to drive the car as I was keen to ride a motorcycle when I was 18 years old. So it is very important.
The 35-year-old proprietor of City Yamaha, a motorcycle dealership in Brisbane, has made racing a way of life. Thanks to Dick Johnson and the Shell team, he's back doing what he does best. With an all-action background and a feel for winning, it won't be long before Hansford's name is etched deeply into touring car record books. And who knows, he may still get a chance to meet his old racing buddies like Giacotto again, as touring car racing matures worldwide.